Can we do a selfie? Going into production. There we go. Hi there, I'm Brenda Merritt. I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Health at Dalhousie University, and I have some special guests with me today for today's Dean's Dialogue. I have Dr. Jennifer Lane in the School of Nursing and Dr. Ruth Martin-Misener, the Director of Nursing. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great. So, as usual, I have a set of kind of more formal questions, and some of them will be for both of you, some will be for one or the other, and then we'll move into some rapid-fire fun questions.
Perfect.
Sound good? So this question is for both of you. I'm curious about your origin story of how you got into the profession of nursing. Could you tell us a little bit about that? We'll start. Jennifer, do you want to start?
For sure. Funny enough, my mother was a nurse, but she always told me not to go into nursing. You can imagine. So I did eventually go into nursing. Anyways, but as cliche as it sounds, it called to me. I was doing work that didn't fill my bucket, and I thought nursing would be meaningful, productive work that gave me purpose. So that was my path. I thought it would be my path, and it turns out it was.
Great. That's not cliche at all, I don't think.
I think nurses are always talking about the calling. Do you know what I mean? You must have got your calling.
No, not really.
No?
I don't think it was a calling. Much more ordinary than that. During my teen years, I was asked by two women who were both nurses they owned and operated a nursing home in my hometown. And I was asked if I would like a job, as a, care aide or, and so I was 16 and I said, sure. And I took that job and I really loved it, and I found I was pretty good at it. It was really great to see those two nurses and the leadership that they provided in the nursing home, and I really liked providing care. But then when the opportunity came later on and to make a decision, I always knew I was going to go back to nursing after that experience. So
that's something I did not know about you. Very interesting. So the next question is for Ruth, kind of looking at a historical perspective. How, in your opinion, has the role of nurses evolved over the past few decades? And what were some key milestones in your career?
I think the role of nursing has really evolved, as roles often do, in response to the changes in our context. And primarily I'm thinking about the changes in treatments, in technology, specialties that have arisen that have then generated a need for nurses to do more and to do things differently. And technology also has been a big part of that. So that has meant that nurses have had to evolve and take on broader scope of practice, greater responsibilities in order to meet the needs of people, which is what nurses are all about, is meeting the needs of people and populations.
Yeah. Just a quick follow-up question on that. So as practice evolves, education also evolves, and I wonder if education influences practice or vice versa, or a little bit of both.
I think a little bit of both, but some of the major changes that have occurred are the baccalaureate degree became entry to practice. I mean, that's just the norm now, but that was a big change, a few decades ago. And all of the specializations that have occurred in nursing and in healthcare require education. And so keeping pace with that is one of the challenges that from an education perspective that we've had to do. And the other big change has been the development of and rapid expansion of advanced practice nursing roles, in particular the nurse practitioner role. So those are our big changes. And there's an education piece and a practice piece.
Yeah. And any key milestones or points of interest in your career?
For me, I think a big milestone was when I initially went into critical care in my nursing career, and then made a decision that I wanted to go up north, and knew that critical care was not going to cut it in a primary care setting in the north. So I came to Dalhousie actually and did what was known as the Outpost Nursing Program, Outpost and Community Health Nursing Program. It was really Canada's first, although we didn't call it a nurse practitioner program, it was actually preparing me for the nurse practitioner role, and that literally changed my life and the career, my career stream from there on in. And it's taken me back to Dalhousie eventually. Yeah.
Really interesting, really interesting. This is a question for both of you. What do you see are the most pressing challenges and best opportunities in nursing right now?
Honestly, I think the most pressing challenges and best opportunities are one and the same.
Okay.
I think social and health inequities are really difficult to meaningfully address. And I think that's really something that is so within the scope of nurses' practice. But I think also it's the greatest opportunity because of that, right? And so I think we're uniquely positioned to move the dial on meaningfully addressing health and social inequities.
Yeah. Excellent, yeah. Ruth?
I think some of the big challenges are recruiting and retaining nurses for lots of reasons, but I think that is a challenge in nursing and literally every career or professional line of work. The opportunities, I think, far outweigh the challenges, and the opportunities are that I think nurses really have an opportunity to transform healthcare. I'm not saying nurses are the only healthcare providers that can do this, but I think nurses really are poised and hold positions now where they can literally transform healthcare.
I would absolutely agree with you for sure. This one's for you, Jennifer. What has been the most memorable thing about being a nurse or nurse educator for you?
My clinical practice. It was really hard stepping away from it, but I just couldn't do everything when I was doing my PhD and still see my family once in a while. So the clinical practice piece was so important. I just learned so much from patients, especially with respect to advocacy and, pushing in the right ways to get what the patient needs. Just such invaluable teachings from patients. So absolutely, it's most memorable.
Do you want to share a little bit about your practice setting?
My path was always destined for mental health and addictions, because I had lived experience with mental illness. And so I couldn't get a job though right out of the program. So I worked on 4.2, which is plastics and gen surge. And we used to see, people who would self-harm and that sort of thing. And so that was just that reminder that I'm not quite on the right path. And so I did get a position on short stay. And that was where there's so much need out there, and so much to learn, like you said, from the people we work with. Well, and the model there, only 5 beds, usually two nurses working, so you could really work with people and have meaningful connections.
Oh, that's really
really
great.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one is again for both of you. This year we are celebrating the School of Nursing's 75th anniversary. It's quite an accomplishment. If you had a magic ball, what would you like to see happen in the next 75 years? You want to start with?
Well, I'd like in 75 years that people are going to be able to look back and actually say this is how nurses transformed healthcare, and they're going to be actually able to identify and measure the outcomes that allowed that to happen. Right now, we can't do that. We don't have we have the metrics, but we don't have all the ways of measuring and measuring changes as they occur. But in nursing, I think in some other fields there are better metrics and ways of actually measuring outcomes. But I think and hope that in 75 years we're going to not only be able to say we transformed healthcare, we being nursing and nurses, but this is how, and be able to identify that.
Mine's quite similar. I want us to have led the charge with health equity and make all the changes that are so important to make. And I think as Canadian nurses, I think we have such unique populations here, but also the rights and freedoms of queer people in our country. I think it really globally situates us to do some really important work. Yeah.
I mean, I look at nurses across the spectrum, from RNs to nurse practitioners, advanced care, our educators, our leaders, and across that whole spectrum of nurses are change agents within practice. I mean, and it is an incredible, powerful group of people that I agree with you, Ruth, can change healthcare.
And I think there are, to your point about change agents, part of that is having the research that is helping to guide those changes, and there are more and more nurses who are pursuing those advanced degrees that enable them to participate in and lead that research.
Excellent. Okay, this one's for you, Ruth. What is your impression of what nursing looked like 50 or 75 years ago, and how does it differ from today?
That's a great question. And I was talking to someone recently, and so this is, I think, the way I would answer the question, and it's really coming from her, because I think it describes it beautifully. Probably 50, 75 years ago, you could have been a registered nurse and been practicing and left the profession for whatever reason for 5 years, and then, or even longer, 10 years, and come back and not really had that much new to learn. You could step back into the role fairly easily. That's not possible anymore. It hasn't been for a long time, and that's because of the rapid change in not only nursing, but technology and treatments and communication patterns. And so, you can barely be out of practice for more than a year, and you're having to do a lot of updating. So the rapid changing nature of the world, really, of all of those things that I've mentioned, that is a big change.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
All right, Jennifer. As a new faculty member and scholar, explain the theme of your research and why it's important.
Well, I talk a lot about health equity.
As do we all, I hope, right?
Yeah. So I'm doing a general population study right now. We're trying to do it equitably. So we're doing a lot of community engagement, trying to get folks involved in the design of the research itself. So we're going to be basically using the regional diversity in Nova Scotia to examine the health system. It's an exploratory study. So it's kind of it's about partnership building really right now, and getting some preliminary data to then, work with folks to try to figure out what the next step is. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. I was at a workshop on Friday around leadership and equity, diversity, and inclusion, and one of the key principles that we all just have to get right is not going back to community that you're kind of trying to work with to double check that you're on target, You know, if we want to be working with Black or Indigenous or queer, we need to involve them
Absolutely.
in the decision making along the way. So I commend your work. It goes slower, but the impact is pretty great.
Yeah, I
Or it
think
can go slower.
I'm curious to see how it impacts recruitment, because I think that everyone that came to the events that we had, they were really excited.
Yeah.
So we'll get people sharing information about our study and that sort of thing, and hopefully we can get a little bit more money to do a second round. Because to do it well is expensive. Yeah.
Well, I hope it goes well.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
and it's really glad to have you and your work here at Dalhousie.
Thanks.
Okay.
Here.
Yes. So this is the last, more formal question for both of you. What advice would you give to someone considering a career in nursing?
Me? Sure. Practice getting comfortable with discomfort and lean into that and take in all the learning you can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess the advice I would just say, just do it. Nursing, and be prepared for how nursing will change you. You probably can't be totally prepared, but it will change you in good ways, in my opinion. And I think that in ways that you can't foresee, because you're going to have experiences that will enrich your life, probably challenge some of the ways that you think. But at the end of the day, you're a better person for it, and you have the opportunity to engage with people that you're providing care for, and be a part of their life, their lives, what's important to them.
One thing about nursing that I think I've probably learned more since I've come to Dalhousie and work closer with the school is the diversity of what you can do with a nursing degree is incredible, from community work to all sorts of settings within the hospital system and primary care and long-term care. I mean, and nurse leadership, and I mean,
The opportunities.
are countless.
Yeah. Whatever path you want to take, just carve it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, we're ready for the rapid fire fun questions. Okay. What's the first concert you attended?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Or the last one you remember?
The last one I remember.
I think for me it was, this is dating me, but I attended I think they called it the Toronto Island Folk Festival. That was the first one that I ever went to, so it was a folk festival on Toronto Island.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
I cannot remember what it was, but I can remember where it was. It was at an exhibition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can't remember who it was.
It's okay.
For the life of me. It was, it
We'll
made
come
a
back
huge
to you
impression
tonight
on
around
me.
midnight. It's okay. Okay. What's the last thing you binge watched, read, or listened to?
I'm re-binge watching Stranger Things.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm about halfway through that. I need to go back to it.
Yeah. No, it's the third time I've watched it.
Yeah.
I really
fun.
like it.
Yeah. The last thing I would have to say is the Lord of the Rings movie set.
Okay.
Yeah. There are lots of I don't know, just cool life lessons in those movies and books.
Oh yeah. Yep, for sure. Okay, what do you do to relax and take care of yourself?
I snuggle with my dog.
Okay.
Her name is Peggy, and she's 125 pounds, and she is a snuggle bug. Yeah.
What kind of dog is it?
Bull Mastiff.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That must feel very comforting.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do a few things. I would say I'll give you two answers. One is reading at night when everyone else is asleep and I've got my light on and I can just sink into the bed and read. And the other one is gardening.
Oh yeah, yeah. I like to garden as well. I'm not very good at it, but I do my best.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the last one. Big sigh here. What's one thing that instantly makes your day better?
Coffee.
Coffee. I am with you on that one. I can get behind that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. Coffee. And when I come into Dell in the morning and I see Jennifer or Keisha or somebody else in the hallway and just saying hello, how are you doing?
Yep.
That makes my day better.
Same. Well, I thank both of you for taking the time and putting up with all my questions. And, just really great to have two nurses here, in the Dean's Dialogue to talk about the profession and to talk about yourselves a little bit. So thank you.
Thank you
for
for
the
the
invite.
opportunity.